everyone, and welcome. This is the Minnesota Varsity League Winter Series, and today is our chess tournament. We are going to chess, and we're super excited. My name is Thunder McFadden, and I am joined by just one of the best humans on the planet, and his name is Master Shake. How are you, Master?
What's up, everybody? I'm doing great today. I'm excited. I was playing chess all last night, as I usually do. I play against some of the coaches as well on occasion, so I'm excited to be a guest caster here. Deal with me. I know that Thunder is far better at casting, but I should be able to bring
Ah,
some good chess knowledge into it while we are on the broadcast today. I will note to everybody who is in the tournament and watching, this will be on a 2 minute delay. So if you are watching the stream today and you notice we aren't reacting to what you're saying on chat for a little while, that is because we put it in a 2 minute delay to deal with competitive, basically, con- I don't know the word, but
to prevent
for
cheating.
better, yes, prevent cheating.
Basically, yeah. So that's, and that's kind of what I'm here for, is to put it into basic terms, right? And that is just that. So, in for any of our other esports, right? Overwatch, things like that, everything is happening so fast that nobody's really going to gain an advantage based on what I'm saying, right?
Yep.
Whereas in chess, uh, this is a game that is a slower paced game. Okay, it is very strategic, right? We all know some people who are. If you're not familiar to chess, though, yes, it is a mind game. It is a very, very slow paced game. So we are going to put it on that delay. We're going to react to you guys when we can, and we're going to get at you as we go along. But just do be aware that we do have that 2 minute delay today. Yeah, yeah. And our first game that we will be getting into right now, we're getting the players set here, guys. The first game is going to be SJP Sam up against Alton Mize, right? And we're really excited to get into everything today. Very excited to look and see. We've never cast chess before, right? So I mean, it's going to be fun for everybody to get into and see kind of what we're getting going. And on top of that, watching for the checks, watching for the different moves, all that, how it's happening. Very excited.
Yep. And to give you guys a little bit of a little chess lesson for anybody tuning in and trying to learn how to play better or getting ready for the new season of MNVL spring season, where we will be offering chess, um, I got three pieces of advice for you: checks, captures, attacks. Right, looking for those three in that order typically is a good. I mean, there are of course caveats or exceptions to the rule, but a check typically will opponent have to react to your move, allowing you to develop your pieces, while they have to then move their king or move pieces to defend and not actually developing an attack.
Mhm.
Captures are always what you're looking for if you can take a piece, specifically if you can take a piece without being punished or without having to do a trade. Unless you are up. If you are up uh, pieces, like you have taken a bishop or you have taken a rook, where the enemy team has not taken that yet, you always typically want to trade, right? Getting to an end game being a piece up is a gigantic advantage. And then attacks. What if you can't capture, you can't put them in a check, you're going to look for an attack so you can make them react to you, right? Chess, every move matters. So the moves that you can make them react to you instead of actually developing and creating or building their own strategy of attacking you is something that's going to be helping you in the long run, even if it's just those early game maneuvers. So take a look for those. We'll be looking at that today. We'll be looking at seeing how we can how how each player enacts those strategies, and we're going to see how many of these players actually know some of these textbook strategies, such as the London, the King's Indian, the fried liver attack. We're going to be looking out for all those today.
Yeah, super excited. And those are things that, Jake, you are more familiar with than me. Those openings and those defenses and those sort of things that we're going to learn a lot about today. I like the points that you make there, though, about the exchange of pieces. And again, for those people who are maybe a little bit less familiar with chess, each piece has a point value. Okay, your pawn is worth one. The rest of them I don't have memorized, but they are worth different point values. And in the game of chess, there's a couple of things. Exchanging pieces, losing a piece is sometimes okay and actually an advantage there are times where it's an advantage to even exchange your queen for the other queen if it puts you up in the points and it puts you up in the pieces, that type of thing.
Yep.
Another thing too about chess, as opposed to, I mean, with any esport, obviously it's about reacting to what your opponent is doing. Chess, however, is one where you focus a lot less on what your next moves are going to be. You're focused a lot more on what your opponent's next moves are going to be. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, though, Jake. I believe in chess, that's really kind of got to be your mindset. You have to be thinking, what is my opponent going to do, as opposed to what do I plan to do? Because what you plan to do can change at any moment. And you have
Mhm.
to be more focused on what's coming at you.
Exactly. And so a lot of times really good chess players will think a lot of moves ahead. So I'm
Mm,
always trying to when I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, all right, if I move this piece, what is their likely next move going to be? And then how will I counter that? And then how will they counter that? And then I always try to think at least three moves ahead with any move that I make,
mm,
and try to anticipate what all the possible moves that the opposing player will do. Now that gets really tricky in these time games. So
mm,
go over today's rules just a little bit. We'll have 10-minute games, which means that each player will have 10 minutes to enact all of their moves. If somebody runs out of time, they lose. Even if they have more pieces than the other player, they will lose that. So um, you are trying to make the best moves possible, but you also are under a time crunch, which allows for or typically creates some mistakes while you are playing. So that we'll see how that time um, uh, interacts with these players' strategies as well. Because sometimes you just realize, oh, you've been thinking for a couple minutes and you're really behind on time. You better get
mm.
moving, and you make some big mistakes off of that.
Yeah.
And to go back to what you were saying, Fitz or Thunder, my bad, is that um, all the pieces are worth a certain point value. Pawns will be worth one. Your bishops and your knights are worth three. Your rooks are worth five. They're very important in the end game. The end game rooks are incredibly strong. And then your queen is worth 8 points, 9 points. And the king, of course, is the game is over. So all the points for the king. We are just waiting on a couple players to get into a lobby for the first match today. But while we wait, I think you should take note of Thunder McFadden's awesome gift. We are the Bash Bros. We got the Mighty Ducks jerseys that Thunder got us for our birthday this year. I'm kind of talking like Smeagol. He gets it for our birthdays. Uh, but I'm pumped to be casting with my brother, and I'm pumped to get in some chess games.
Yeah.
We'll see how this goes. This is the first time MNVL's ever done chess, so
Yep. Yep. Super excited, dude. Super excited. So happy to be here with you. Jake and I have known each other for a long time. You will hear him. That's not, you've heard him already. It's not the only time he's going to slip and use my real name. Uh, it always happens. And that's cool. It's great. It's great because, again, we've been at it for a long time and it's always good to see you, Jake. Love you, man.
hopefully this
So,
will be the last time I cast because I stumble over my words. I want to get Skeptor back out here. He
hey,
just couldn't do it today, so I appreciate the nice words and everything, but I'm ready to get back into adminning the tournaments and not casting them.
hey, that's why we get along so well because I'm dying to be in front of the camera and you're like, no, you go ahead, Thunder. You're good. You go, all you, man. You're good.
Hmm.
Love it. Hey, on that note about time, we're getting into one of these games here in a second. The note about time, the 10-minute time limit, that is going when the player is active, right? So you
Ooh.
have it's a total of 10 minutes, and if you use 2 minutes, that then you're down. You're down that 2 minutes on one move or whatever it may be.
And it looks like SJP Sam is going with that King's Pawn to start. As you guys will note, the little indicator on the far left that is the engine, the chess.com engine, and that is seeing who is favored to win. So they give little advantages based on that. We see Alton Mize developing a pawn structure here. SJP Sam attacking the king and putting him in check with that light squared bishop. Likely Ultima is going to pop out. Oh, he does go and cover with that bishop. Sam has the option to trade here, or if he would like to retreat his bishop back a square. Right now it is not covered. Another move that is possible is moving out the knight to cover the bishop. So, but instead he moves the pawn to cover the bishop, which if he takes will allow his rook to get an open A file, which means that rook is able to move out of that corner, which is typically hard. And he does go for the trade. Does go for the trade. Will have the queen moved, and Alton Mize looking like he's set up for a possibly a queenside castle. Looks like there might be a trade of pawns here. A couple ways that SJP Sam can take this pawn. I don't know if I like developing the queen super early like this, but it is a possibility. Now Alton can attack that queen, and then as he does so, now he cannot. Now SJP has to move his queen and can no longer develop his pieces. Looks like SJP Sam also does have a good option to castle on his king side here, um, which would be relatively protected given the amount of pieces he has on that side. Always good to castle as soon as you possibly can, just because it develops those rooks, which are very hard to develop as being in the corner and being pieces that need to move only um, in a basically vertical or horizontal fashion. And he does go for that castle. Right now, I'm favoring SJP Sam's player piece development, but he Alden Mize actually has some really strong. Oh, he has a really strong, looking like a King's Indian setup on his side, on his king side. Definitely going to go for a King's Castle. I would assume with all the pieces he has defending here. Where SJP Sam is probably going to try to continue to develop. He's got a couple of good squares where he can develop. He will stack that queen rook, which does leave his king a little bit more vulnerable, but does allow for a really strong attack, meaning your queen is covered. Um, Although this file is not very safe to be attacking in.
And Jake, on that note about castling, for those of you who don't know, the castling is when you have open space. All the space between your king and your rook is open. And what you can do on your turn is you can swap, you can flip those two, and they move closer together. It's a protective move, a defensive move, and it's a nice way to get your king closer to the corner, which in a lot of cases is kind of where you want your king to be.
And we'll see Alden Mize does it as well. So yeah, your king moves over two spaces, and your rook or your castle goes on the opposite side of your king. So um, typically, castling the king side is a little bit more safe. Looks like we are going to get our first of attacks here, where the knight is attacking. It is under danger from the opposing knight, but then can be taken by that pawn, which would close off the file there and open up a really strong attack um, for Alton. I actually like Alton's position here a lot. I think that was a big blunder by SJP Sam to move that knight up. Reason being, well, I'll tell you the reason being depending on what move Alton does. In the off case, he waits 2 minutes and listens to us, but I don't think he will. Um, Something's that are, and he does that move. So take a look what happens here. He moves that, he sacrifices, but now he's got an open file with ooh, his bishop. Although that bishop is currently protected, he is going to be able to get in here, and they just keep trading pieces back and forth. So it looks like Alton has now lost both of his knights, as has SJP Sam. So they're going to be looking to play what's called a closed position. Closed position means your pieces are really close together. Um, that's good in this situation because all the pieces that are left on the board can be blocked. Where knights don't get blocked, right? It doesn't matter what's in their way; they can go to whatever square they're allowed to go to without issue. This is a great attack here by Alden Mize, and it is going to be covered by SJP Sam's queen, attacking that pawn. Right now, we're seeing no advantages. Both players at an equal piece score. So this may get down to the end game and who can really maneuver that queen and those rooks in the end game to be more powerful. Oh, and this is looking like a good setup here because what will happen is, oh, and see, this is what I'm talking about. He does attack, attacks that bishop. Not a great attack, but is covered. Actually, pretty decent attack. This bishop has a lot of different moves, though. Like he can put um, SJP Sam in check, although he'll lose his bishop if he does so. They can opt for a trade of queens here, which would put Alton Mize up one pawn. I don't know if that they're confident to the point of wanting to trade queens for just to get a pawn advantage, but
Yeah, I think that after trading both of their knights like that, I think they're going to be a little more conservative because they traded both of those they traded those pieces pretty quick, kind of back to back.
mhm.
And I think based on the way that they're playing right now, it's going to be a little bit slower paced here for the next few moves.
And you'll notice SJP Sam has his pawns pretty out in the open and easy to take. I mean, there's obviously two moves, moving the G pawn up to G3, and the B pawn up to B3, which would then solidify his pawns. But look at what happens here now. Um, this queen is taking this pawn, offering a trade of queens. Um, SJP will take that. SJP Sam takes the trade of queens. Of course, the rook will come down now and take that. But now the rook is uh, Alden Mize has gained a pawn by doing so, and now is threatening two different pawns. They are now both covered. You'll see that the rook in the bishop covers one, and the pawn covers the other now. So he does have both defended. And this rook is going to have to move out of this position. I would wager he may move this forward. I would almost move this forward to that space right in front of that C bishop, the dark square bishop. But things are not looking good for SJP Sam right now because of how disjointed and unconnected his pawns are. If he tries to move any of his actual power pieces right now, he no longer covers two of those just hanging pawns. And ooh, that is a gigantic. Oh nope, it's not a big blunder because it is covered by the bishop, and he's offering this trade here. Um, hmm. With the amount of pawns that black does have here, this is an interesting setup. Now, SJ, oh, and he does go for the rook trade, puts him in check. The rook will take. Um, and right now we're entering an interesting endgame where it's a dark squared bishop and a rook versus a dark squared bishop and a rook. Although Alton Mize has a much oh no, that's not a blunder. I was going to say that's a large blunder. But if they trade here, this is not good. SJP Sam doesn't want to trade, and the reason being is the pawns. Um, there's just a stronger pawn structure for Alton Mize right now. And if he all he's gonna have to do then is get these pawns down to the other side of the if you move a pawn to the other side of the board, you can transform it into anything you want. Typically, you just want to turn it into a queen. So we'll take the trade. Bishop will go back and take that trade. As you can see, the engine is very much preferring Alton Mize right now, and that is just because of that pawn advantage. He can move forward here with the E pawn and attack the pawn on the F file. And if he does so, all of a sudden he just opens up this side, and he will slowly attack. He's actually attacking that completely open pawn there.
Does this
Fits
at all? I know that the advantage is showing for Alton Mize right now, but considering where his kind of fortification is, do you think that Sam has potentially a chance on the left side of the board, on the AB side of the board? Who has a better chance if you're talking about trying to get one of those pawns to the other side to get a queen back? Who has a better shot over there? Do
a
you think at this point?
AB is right now. So take a look at what we're looking at right now is we have two pawns that are completely matched up against each other. Um, this this usually does not give any kind of advantage. What you're looking at is what's called a pass pawn. A pass pawn is a pawn that is alone. And look at Alton Mize very smartly is using his king to protect this pass pawn. The pawn that is not defended and can only really be defended by SJP Sam's king and by his rook. So what he's going to want to do is he's going to try to position that pawn in a way that he can either get it to the other side or offer a trade of the rook for a pawn, which of course is a terrible trade. He's just going to have to be very careful with how he does this, but if he does it correctly, he should be able to pull this off.
You mean trade the bishop for a pawn?
Bishop for pawn, yes. I
Cool.
sometimes say bishop and rook
You're good. You're
around
good.
him.
I was just kind of clarifying just to see kind of where the board was at. Yeah,
Hmm.
this is getting very interesting right here.
So at this point, Alden Miles is going to have to do something. He is low on time, though. I will notice he offers a rook trade. This is actually smart. Um, and if I'm going to bet that if SGP Sam does not take this rook trade, which I don't think he should,
Bishop,
bishop trade, yeah, geez,
you're good.
um, then yes, and he does not go for that. I'm going to wager that Alden is going to try to move his king to be able to position that pawn even a little bit more forward. This whole dance is around this pawn, and yep, that's exactly where I thought he might go. He actually even might, as long as this, if he moves this pawn to a light square, it is safe, right? He only has a dark square bishop, so cannot attack the pawn on a light square. So if he moves it to a light square, he can then um, cut off, and he may be able to position himself. Ooh, and black is highly favored here because he moved that pawn up. Now, um, he can attack with another. Oh, there we go. And now two, um, these two are. Yep, he does the trade. He will go for this trade here. Now position his king in between these two pawns, take the back one, take the forward one, and then he will have two passed pawns on the A B files. Oh, and he goes for that take. He will, of course, trade here. Oh, I see what the problem is.
Explain to me. I was doing as I was doing my research. The how do you pronounce it? En pass. How is the passing when you pass pawns? How does that specific move work? I'm still a little
Oh, the en
confused.
passant. En
En
passant.
passant. That's it. Yes. Okay.
En
Explain that to
passant
me.
is only when the pawn is moving from its original position. So when you first move a pawn, you can choose to move it either one space or two spaces. After that, you have to move it one space at a time. And en passant basically means if a pawn were to move two spaces instead of one, and is able to, oh, he can, oh, this is not a bad move by the king here, but all Alden needs to do here is move his um, d-file pawn up. Perfect move. The king will have to either take or get out of that position. Can't move closer to this other pawn. He'll move the king out and basically just body block this pawn all the way down to the a file, where it will pick up a queen. Um, Moving there doesn't help him. He'll just, yep, and move that other pawn down again. Um, or moving his a pawn down. Really, this is just a matter of time. But time is the enemy for Alton right now. He does need to get this game wrapped up within 25, with 2 minutes 25 seconds. So en passant, um, if the if you have a pawn that could have killed the enemy pawn if it had only moved one space, but instead it moves two spaces, seemingly making it safe. That pawn can still kill it as if it had only moved one space.
That
So
makes
that's
sense.
so that's basically how that works. Ooh, I don't, not the biggest fan of what that move is right there. Um, yeah, you got to get your king up and then maneuvered over. And if he takes the b3 position with his king here, he can then just move his a pawn all the way down, and the king can't take it because the king can't go to that b square because the pawn will take. Oh, and look at, he moves the king out. There we go. Now that pawn is 100% bodyguarded. The king can't get in, and this should be a wrapped up uh, game as long as Miles knows how to wrap it up with this queen king combination. He's gonna move over, take this pawn. Why is he moving there? Um, he's protected. He's going to try to corral this king in, but he needs to get both of his pieces to do so. He can't do it just the queen. And so we'll see him slowly inch his king forward. until his king can defend his queen, and then his queen will move in for to basically corral this king into a corner. I
Yep.
would move that queen almost all the way down right now. Oh nope, he's going to continue with this.
Yeah, a little bit of a cat and mouse game here, but this is definitely getting that queen was huge, huge for Elton Mize, and now it puts. I mean, SJP Sam is in really a rough position here, a rough position here after a couple of moves that definitely did not go his way.
I'm reading some things in the chat. Elo getting up to 1800. Yeah, um, 1800 is you know you can get it really early if you haven't played a lot of games. But I say you find your rating really once you've played around 20 to 30 games, and it'll probably get you to where you need to be at. I just played against some friends for a while and was able to get to like okay, so I was able to get to like a 16 to 1700 rating, and I know I'm not there. I'm actually probably a 1000 to 1100 rated player currently. Um, so he has to be very careful. Alton does here. The reason being is that if he puts this king in a position where it cannot move, it will be a stalemate. But since he can still move his pawns, um, you know, he has an option to do that. He's running low on time. He's trying to figure out what he needs to do here. He's unsure, and I don't think that's the move. You're cutting your king off, and that king is moving in now to take the pawn. Can't take the pawn, has to move backwards, or can go in between those two pawns. Oh, I don't like that move there. Um, Move the king over here. Yeah, there you go. And then next move, you'll probably move that. Oh, here we go. You have to take with this pawn now. There you go.
I wonder a moment ago when Sam went
At this point, yeah.
G8 to G7, if he had gone G8 to, or sorry, G G8 to H7 maybe, and taken the pawn earlier, would he have been in a better position or no?
He wins if he just passes this pawn down. Just click, 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 click this pawn down all the way and turn it into a rook, and you win. Oh, there you go. Also wins there. So excellent job, Alden Mize,
Great game.
closing out that end game. Excellently done. Um, Yeah, that was a good job. So we are going to. So everybody is aware. Although I'm casting this every once in a while, I'll look over to my side computer. I am still adminning this tournament because we're a little short staffed today. So, uh, uh, you know, Thunder. What? Tell me what you thought about that game.
I think that it was nothing too crazy happened, right? We saw, I mean, as it progressed, it was pretty predictable as it went through. There were a few moves that, as we talked about before the cast, there were a few moves there that maybe with a just a little bit more foresight or maybe a little bit more paying attention to what the other player is doing, some of those and both players made a couple of just small mistakes. I think SJP Sam made maybe one or two small mistakes more than Alton, but ultimately it was a pretty decent and evenly matched game as far as I saw.
Yeah, it showed that these players are actually quite good. These aren't just random people coming in and playing the game for the first time. I could tell by first of all their openings, and then second of all, um, the ability to play out that end game because the way that worked is there was really no advantage. There was a one
Mhm.
pawn advantage. That's it, a single pawn, and sometimes that's just enough in the end game to have that pass pawn advantage. Um, Alden Mize had it just better figured out on how to play that end game by protecting your pawn with your king, um, going for opening up that traded bishops. Was happy to do so, knowing he had a one pawn advantage and the pass pawn. Pass pawn means the ability to get it all the way to the end without it being blockaded, and was able to maneuver his king perfectly, and just barely enough time to to create that uh, king, and then to um, I mean, create that queen and then get into the final end game position where he did have a little bit of, he could have probably closed out the game a little bit earlier than he did, but sometimes it just takes a minute to figure that out, and it's
Yeah.
hard when you're under the gun of a clock.
Totally. Yeah, obviously the clock is everybody's enemy, right? But I think that yes, it was a very even matchup. I think that we saw a lot of what we talked about before the game as far as that exchanging of those bishops. Then there was an exchange of rooks. The exchange of knights happened almost simultaneously and within only a matter of just a couple of moves. So these players both making very smart plays in those traits, right? We talked about it. You don't want to give something up unless you're taking something as well. At times, it can be advantageous to do the trade, right? They make the
Hmm.
trade of queens at that one point, and Altemise at that point, I think, kind of knew that he was going to be able to get that pawn all the way and go the distance with him. And then that ended up being the difference maker because, again, you know, when you get that queen back, kind of
And
all over there. Um, and at the end of the game, when you are in that open space, sometimes it can be harder to make moves than when you have a full board, honestly.
yeah, and honestly, that I mean, to be fair, the advantage was a one pawn advantage, and that one pawn
Mhm.
advantage was won in that queen trade. So he went for the pawn, took the pawn, um, got his queen taken by SJP Sam's queen, and then traded that out by taking it with the rook. And
Mhm.
from there, they just danced around a little bit. So basically, what happened was that one play put Alden Mize up by one pawn, and then that just ended up being the advantage throughout the entire rest of the series, and he was able to capitalize on that. So sometimes, at these higher levels, one pawn advantage can be the deciding factor. Um, you know,
It's a fantastic point.
yeah, you see that a lot. With grandmaster level play, the minute one piece is won, it's basically over. Sometimes you can claw back. At the elo, which that I play, 1100 area. Um, you know, mistakes can always be made, and you can claw back sometimes. But you lose the wrong pieces early, and that can be the game over. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely. So great job, both players. SJC Pam or SJP Sam going down to Alton Mize in this first matchup. A great matchup, very evenly paced and evenly matched game. So we're gonna take a quick break here before we get into the next matchup there, Jake. Is that our plan?
I believe we're going to take a quick break, and we have
Okay.
a special treat for everybody who hasn't seen it. In our break, we are going to play the Next Gen documentary trailer. Next Gen is a
Yes.
documentary we made about a MNVL graduate, Joseph Lindstrom, who is also an HSCL national champion in the game of Overwatch, and his journey of becoming basically a leader in the club and at his school, while also chasing after that repeat national champion. So I believe our production has the trailer ready to go. So we're going to jump to a break and watch that trailer. And when we get back, we should be seeing Henshin versus a familiar face, Saber, from our 1v1 Rocket League tournament.
Perfect. See you soon, guys. Enjoy.
Everyone, and welcome to the HSEL Nationals. It is an amazing day for Overwatch. We are looking forward to seeing the matchup today as we look to try and again see which one of these teams is going to go into the opportunity to try and claim that prize pool.
There's kids that are in my program that would walk around and have nobody at school to talk to. And now those same kids have like a great group of friends. They're happier. Their parents are ecstatic. Why wouldn't you want to give that to a group of kids that don't have it? Just because you don't understand it.
Okay, yes, they're playing video games, but you gotta look past that and also see why are they playing it and what are they doing with it.
There's not a lot of knowledge about gamers out there, so people just don't know what they don't know.
It's really collaborative, like a sport. I mean, it is a sport. I mean, it's new that I think it's hard for people to understand that it's a sport.
They have to develop teamwork like any other physical game does.
We got to get rolling. This is where it becomes big time. We've been working all year for this. SLP on 3. 1, 2, 3. SLP!
thank you so very much for all of you who have tuned in and watched the HSEL Nationals. The 5-map pool today will be Hollywood, Kings Row, Nepal, Lijiang Tower, and Oasis.
I mean, it's interesting to see just how many schools there are this year and how many schools you're beating out to be in the top 8. It's insane.
Joseph is our youngest. He's 17. He was diagnosed with autism at age 4. Not an excuse. He's still Joseph.
Everybody is welcome. You want to come play esports for me? Come play for me. That is the mentality that we have in esports. All right, here we go. St. Louis Park looking for that repeat national title. The only number 1 seeds left in the tournament. No, the kid does drop. Tosi is now on. Now he's feeling it. Get these shots, Tosi. Now he's feeling it. Boom. The point of this is for people to find a place where they belong, make friends, learn discipline, learn teamwork, learn reaction to setbacks.
Triple kill coming out in favor of SLP as they now are starting to look to turn it around.
Frank, I got you. Nice job here. You're confident.
Another solid hold here with an entire team kill for SLP.
When he plays, he wins.
To see if they can keep it into overtime, and that's not going to be enough. That will be SLP claiming the first 3 victories here, best of 5, and they will be going into the finals.
Holy shit. Well, we move on.
Oh yeah, you tied us up. That's good content right there.
Welcome back, everybody. How was that? We hope you enjoyed the trailer for the documentary. Jake, you look great on camera, man.
Jeez, I gotta say, sometimes I looked a lot younger back then, and probably did look pretty darn good, I'd say.
You just look timeless to me, Jake. That's
Oh,
when I
yeah.
describe you to my friends. That's what I say. You know, he's this great guy. He's genuine. He's always been an amazing friend to me, and he's just, in a word, timeless.
Yeah, the timeless guy who went bald at 19 and already has grays in his beard. Yeah, timeless is probably not exactly what I'd go for, but
Listen, that's what I say.
let me tell you, that documentary will be out on February 17th, this Wednesday, on the Next Gen YouTube channel. We're going to do an MNVL watch party with myself and Joseph in the call as we watch it. This is being promoted by a couple NFL players, Doa from the Overwatch League, um, you know, Alpine Esports. A lot of big names are promoting this documentary just to show what esports means to us in the high school scene. And we're not making money off of it. Where it's a non-monetized, free YouTube video, and we just wanted to make this and start spreading out like what esports really means to all of our high school programs. Because as coaches, we know what this does for our students. As players, you guys know what it means to you, and we just want the world to finally see that and understand that this just isn't just playing video games, right? This is
Yeah.
a whole lot more than that.
Mhm.
But I do believe we're ready to jump into our next game pretty soon here. So,
Yep, we
as
got the
soon as
players
production-
getting ready. We're gonna have Saber going up against Henshin here in this next matchup. And before we get into it, Jake, you make amazing points. And about the documentary and about what we do here. Let that trailer and guys, when you watch the documentary, let it inspire you to see what you can do in esports and what you at your school, what you with your coaches and with your teammates, what you can do in esports. I mean, listen, a year or 2 years ago, I personally, I never would have even seen myself casting esports at all, let alone chess. And now that I do it, I don't want to do anything else. It's my favorite thing in the world. I would rather cast your video games than play my own. And
Looks
I
like
love it. So it's exciting stuff. And so I just, to that point, enjoy what you guys are watching, enjoy, and get involved. Get involved.
Yep.
See what you can do. Okay? Because that's what we're here for.
check out the recruiting channel. Check out the
Yeah.
recruiting channel in the MNVL Discord. We have, I think, somewhere around 6 or 7 schools offering scholarships. Looking at our league, we have some of the best players in the country, so people really enjoy recruiting from uh, the MNVL channel. Looks like we're looking at a potential Sicilian defense here from the side of Henshin. Looks like Saber's going to. That's a weird place to develop knight too. Does block off his bishop there, um, but is kind of does have a strong pawn structure. Um, Henshin just moving out his uh, moving out his G pawn there, maybe looking for a variation of this King's Indian. If he moves up, yep, he does going to move that rook there. I mean, bishop there, and may look. Yep, he moves the knight out, and he's going to go for a castle. This is a Sicilian defense with a King's Indian variation. I'm a little nervous for Saber at this point because that is a incredibly strong position. Look at him already. Has his 4 or 5 pieces developed and ready and open, whereas Henshin does have like kind of a King's Indian variation, although it doesn't work as well for the white side, um, and is kind of blocked by his pawns here, um, for his bishops, where there's a plan of attack for both side bishops of the black side right now. The engine is liking them both evenly, but we're almost past the development stage here, and we'll probably be getting into um, where they'll start doing some attacks and defenses, and looks like they are going to attack that knight right off the bat. We'll see how Saber defends. He's got a couple maneuvers, but he may just need to move that knight right back to where it came from, because it's not really safe anywhere else that he moves it. The other option is to attack another piece and offer a trade, which he can do by moving that e pawn up. But even moving that e pawn up could just backfire in his face because he can just take it with his other pawn, and then he's a pawn up and a knight up. Very, very, yeah. And you can see Saber sees he's in a predicament right now. He's taking quite a bit of time to choose this move, as I
Yeah,
would as well.
that clock kind of just chewing away here for Saber as he tries to figure out where he wants to put that knight. We're seeing in this game, a little more. I don't want to say strategery, but a little more, I guess, a little more kind of slow play at the beginning, getting those kings. The kings ended up in the corner and in a more fortified place much earlier in this game than they did in the previous game that we cast, uh, which makes for which can make for a lot more exciting play out in the middle of the board, as these players have their kings kind of where they want them.
Yeah, the very so what I would do, what I'd be looking to do here is, if you can offer a good trade of your dark squared bishop if you are black right now, or your light squared bishop if you are white right now, because you have really strong pawn structure on the opposing color. You'll notice that Henshin's pawn structure is really strong on those dark squares, especially on the left side of the board. And if he can move his, yeah, he can move up a pawn to attack. He's got a lot of areas of attack, most of them just for trades right now, but he can move this pawn forward, do a trade of pawns and attack the knight, making the knight have to move. And there is no real super safe positions for that knight to move other than back again. And then all of a sudden, this is what I'm talking about with attacks. Because he attacked that knight, um, Henshin was able to develop more pieces, while Saber had to move his knight around um, to to basically keep it safe. And you'll see that he's got one bishop not developed right now, still sitting in that same position, and less pawns developed just because he's down moves from having to move this knight 3 times. And now it's going to get attacked again. This is exactly where I saw the engine thinks that this evens things out a bit. But I think I disagree, because if he takes and then gets retaken, then all of a sudden this knight is in a defensible position again. He has to actually move out of the way, and the only place he can move is, oh, and he goes with the rook to oh my, I mean the bishop. He's attacking the rook in the F file and also offering a trade of this knight. Interesting play. Still
Now,
think I like the
a
pawn
trade
there.
right now, a knight for a bishop. Is that really an advantageous move for Henshin at this point, though? I mean, wouldn't he wouldn't he prefer to keep the mobility on the diagonals? I
Well,
don't know.
it's a pretty mute trade. It doesn't really
Okay.
matter in the side of the game. But what does matter is if he's able to take this rook on the F file. Um, bishop for a rook is always a good trade. Knight for rook, anything taking a rook
Okay,
other than a
yeah.
queen. I mean, even there's good. I mean, in point value, it's worth, and sometimes people also think that it's worth if you can get a queen for two rooks. So rooks are very, very strong in that end game.
Mhm.
Bishops and knights are really good in this beginning and mid game. Um, but that's why those trades are always important because if you can get to that end game, it's quite strong. I mean,
You
we're
know,
waiting. Saber is killing a
and
lot of time on this move.
this is a this is a great active point to bring up right about just the game of chess in general, because I'm sitting here looking at this bishop coming over and coming after this knight. I hadn't even paid attention and seen that there was that attack on the other side uh of the castle, right? So
hmm
that's board awareness, strategy awareness this entire time is so important. um
Actually, now that I think of it, it might not have been completely terrible because you do trade the bishop for your rook, which is a big feels bad. But then you retake with your knight there. I mean, with your queen, and then that queen is attacking the b file pawn, and you force them to either move something with that pawn. They can't really defend it super well. Maybe moving out the rook on the other side. I guess that does hurt it. So, I mean, it would have been bad, but it wouldn't have been devastating. Um, right now, Henshin is determining his possible. I mean, he's looking at his possibilities here. Um, we'll go with moving this pawn up. The engine seems to really like that move. It looks like he's going to be attacking these center pawns. Attacking a center pawn is a really strong strategy because if you can take the center, I mean, you have a huge advantage in a game. Um, we'll look to see what is going to happen here. Has there been any takes? Just a pawn for a pawn, it looks like. Um, hard to see their score particular. He's going to attack this knight, offering possibly a trade. He's also looking to pin this knight because if the knight moves now, he can take the black queen. Um, and there's not a whole lot that can be done about this from the side of Henshin, except for maybe moving his queen out of that position. Um, or, yep, you can attack. And look at, oh my God, the engine loves this for
Wow.
white. Let's figure out why. Can he take? Why does white love this? Um, he can take that pawn, then he retakes. Then he can't go with the queen because that bishop is there. What is the move? There is a move that the engine sees that is really advantageous for white here, but I'm not seeing it. Let's see if we can find this Thunder because so I can see there's a safe
I'm confused
position
too.
for the
Yeah.
knight. Oh, and it just dropped down. That's not the move that the engine wanted.
Yeah,
That
I
is
think
not
the
the move
engine
the
was
engine
looking for
wanted.
that exchange of pawns. But again, to your point, I'm trying to figure out why.
It might have also liked him moving one of his knights because there's two positions for his knights to take in the center that are safe, and usually a knight taking a center position is a really strong position. I also am guessing that's the case. It had to do with that pawn because um, he's now blocking his queen with that knight when he moved it. I'm not entirely sure why. That may be the biggest blunder of the game. And time will tell. These guys down to 5 minutes each and not much action yet. They're gonna have to start doing something here. I would wager that you take with this pawn on the side of black now, because it is covered by your knight. So should he go for a trade? Ooh, whoa! The engine loves this for white. And I'm going
Yeah,
to guess that is because You can threaten this queen. There you go. There's a good strong threat with the queen. There's another way to do that. But now he's going to win a piece here. He's going to win a queen, or he's going to win the knight for the cost of a pawn. This is a really strong move of his.
Oh, if he takes if the queen gets out of the way though, and he ends up taking the knight, you've got a knight, and then he takes the pawn, and then you take a bishop too. So I mean, you're
Yep.
talking.
So takes with the
Ooh,
knight
that's a
first,
nice
which is
move though.
takes with the knight first, which is proper. Um, will then he should take this back with his other knight. And then it's covered by the rook, so that the queen can't actually take. If the queen takes, then he loses the queen, which he doesn't want to do. And also, there's still this threat of a trade here from the side of Saber, where he can take with the dark squared bishop and take that knight, and all of a sudden, Saber has no knights, and really you just defend with a closed position then, and try to make sure your pieces are all stacked up. Um, Saber actually has a lot of moves here. He can move this B pawn up to attack the bishop, and then all of a sudden that bishop is stuck and dies. Notice if he moves the b pawn up one space, the bishop can only move forward. And if he moves forward one space, he gets killed by the pawn. Two spaces gets killed by the rook. Three spaces gets killed by the rook. So he can win this
Yeah,
bishop if he finds that move.
yeah, definitely. If he sees that, but again, to that point, as far as board vision, as far as developing your strategy while at the same time trying to pay attention to your opponent's strategy, it is something that he just may not see,
Yeah.
right? As you're going through the game and as you're watching, I mean, I'm going to speak for myself, but I know that, Jake, you and I have talked about how much. How much chess we've been consuming on YouTube and online and that type of thing. Even the pros, even the grandmasters, even these like really, really, really good chess players, they are still making mistakes and they say it. They will show you as they're playing. They're
Hmm.
like, I just made a mistake right here. Wow, how did I not see that? Right. So it's a game of development and whether they see it or not, I mean, who knows, right?
We'll see if Saber can find this move. We are on a 2-minute delay, so I doubt he'll be listening to us for that long. Time is ticking away quite a bit. And he does find the move.
There you go.
He does find it. I'm looking at our stream right now, and we have not been discussing that move yet at all. So he did find that completely on his own. Um, thank you for the 2-minute delay. It was a good thing that we're doing that. And now this bishop is gone. So at this point, I would be looking at, all right, what can I counterattack with? Because I'm going to lose this bishop. Um, s- there's not a lot of options here. Um, yeah, you're in trouble. You can move your knight forward. Yep, there you go. Move your knight, and then you threaten the attack on this other knight. And it should be a free knight for the side of Henshin if he does not move this. Um, And if he does move it, then he loses his rook and is a bishop for rook trade. So actually, the best move that Henshin could have possibly done. I was looking for him to maneuver that knight. That was the best position for it. Is protected from that queen. The queen is looking at that knight right now, but it is protected by the pawn. And Henshin is in a bad situation right now. I think he still just takes this light squared bishop with his pawn. And if he goes for the trade, then you move your rook a little bit on the B file, and you have an open B file for your rook to get developed. So it's not terrible for Saber, but we'll see what they decide to do. Both players, lots of game left to go, little bit of time left to go. So it's um then it's a question.
Yeah, I wonder, I mean, as we come to the sort of end game here, I mean, time is going to become a factor. It has to. When you're looking at 3 minutes for Henshin, or just broke it under 3 minutes, and Saber approaching 2 minutes very, very, very quickly. I have a feeling that the moves are going to become a little more hectic here as we move forward. And so watch for potential mistakes, but also watch for things that can just kind of come out of the blue as these players wind down on their amount of time that they have.
Yeah, really strong move by Saber. I didn't find that move. That's a really strong move. He does protect the knight now. And that move looks good because you're now attacking with the pawn. But uh, your um, your bishop is blocked. So you don't have that like threat on the A file rook that you had before. Still really likes White's position here. I think White's position is very strong as well. I think what you do here, I mean, there's a couple moves. You can even take that bishop with your knight, getting the knight out of harm's way, forcing them, forcing I don't know, forcing Henshin to decide which one he wants to take. And you'll have to take the knight because then you're threatening the queen with that knight. Um, and hmm, yeah, this is an interesting maneuver. Yep, he does go for that. We'll see what does Henshin want to take here. He goes for the knight, um, and now is threatening the pawn. Pawn should be able to take and threaten the queen while being covered by the rook. Queen will have to move, and then you have an option to, yep, take another pawn and decimate the center of his board. So, oh, he goes with that maneuver, which still works, but I still think you just take pawns here um, with your C file pawn. You take and try to bust up this center even just a little bit more. Um, the engine still really likes white here. It's thinking that they're quite a bit ahead. I can't see the piece score. Oh my goodness, and they did not like that move. The engine didn't, because he just lost his rook because of it. Huge blunder on the side of Henshin. I mean, on the side of Saber. He should get his bishop taken, and he's got 32 seconds. So Saber's got 32 seconds to make these moves, or else he is going to lose on time. We may see a loss on time, even though he is favored to win this match. He's got 23 seconds. He better start moving quick. I tell you that much. Um, wow. Yeah. Move it there. There's a decent move. Gets covered. And now you can threaten. I did not like that move at all. He just loses his rook for free now. And oh my goodness, he misses it. He misses the move. Oh, he threatening. Oh, he blunders his queen, and that's what happens when you run out on time. And I still don't know why he's not taking this free rook with his queen. He's got the option to take it. Just take it. Come on, Henshin. There you go. You find him. You put him in check, and this should be done in about one move. And Black has taken it over. That's what happens, man. You run out of time, and you start having unforced blunders. And Henshin was able to capitalize, showing some really strong play.
Yeah, I mean, interesting to see how that all developed, right? I mean, again, anything can happen in these games. And what we saw was Saber up the whole time, pretty much, right? But then when it comes down to that end game, that time, the clock just becomes your enemy so quickly. And there, right there, just that it being enough of a disadvantage to take down Saber, and Henshin is moving on, man.
Yeah, yeah, he'll be moving on. We're gonna jump into a very quick break here. And then as soon as we get out of this break, we'll go into our semifinals. Well, we'll see Alton Mize back up again against Maniac, who we know from Rocket League as well. So jumping into a quick break, and we'll see you guys back in probably just 2 or 3 minutes.
See you shortly, guys.
Everyone, and welcome to the HSEL Nationals. It is an amazing day for Overwatch. We are looking forward to seeing the matchup today as we look to try and again see which one of these teams is going to go into the opportunity to try and claim that prize pool.
There's kids that are in my program that would walk around and have nobody at school to talk to. And now those same kids have like a great group of friends. They're happier. Their parents are ecstatic. Why wouldn't you want to give that to a group of kids that don't have it? Just because you don't understand it.
Okay, yes, they're playing video games, but you gotta look past that and also see why are they playing it and what are they doing with it.
There's not a lot of knowledge about gamers out there, you know, so people just don't know what they don't know.
It's really collaborative, like a sport. I mean, it is a sport. I mean, it's new that I think it's hard for people to understand that it's a sport.
They have to develop teamwork like any other physical game does.
We got to get rolling. This is where it becomes big time. We've been working all year for this. SLP on 3. 1, 2, 3. SLP!
Thank you so very much for all of you who have tuned in and watched the HSEL Nationals. The 5-map pool today will be Hollywood, Kings Row, Nepal, Lijiang Tower, and Oasis.
I mean, it's interesting to see just how many schools there are this year and how many schools you're beating out to be in the top 8. It's insane.
Joseph is our youngest. He's 17. He was diagnosed with autism at age 4. Not an excuse, he's still Joseph.
Everybody is welcome. You want to come play esports for me? Come play for me. That is the mentality that we have in esports. All right, here we go. St. Louis Park looking for that repeat national title. The only #1 seeds left in the tournament. No, the kid does drop. Tosi is now on. Now he's feeling it. Get these shots, Tosi. Now he's feeling it. Boom. The point of this is for people to find a place where they belong, make friends, learn discipline, learn teamwork, learn reaction to setbacks.
Triple kill coming out in favor of SLP as they now are starting to look to turn it around.
Frank, I got you. Nice job here. You're popping.
Another solid hold here with an entire team kill for SLP.
When he plays, he wins.
To see if they can keep it into overtime, and that's not going to be enough. That will be SLP claiming the first 3 victories here, best of 5, and they will be going into the finals.
Holy shit. Well, we move on.
Oh yeah, you tied us up. That's good content, right?
Welcome back, everybody. My name is Thunder McFadden, and I am joined by my man Master Shake for this, our Winter Series chess tournament, right? Super exciting, and we've had a couple of very exciting games that have taken some interesting turns. Right, Jake, I break down a little bit of what we've seen so far for everybody and break down what we're going into as we see Alton Mize taking on one of our Rocket League players here, who is also on the chessboard. That's going to be Maniac. So let me know your thoughts there, boss.
We're going to be jumping into their game to take a look at the previous games. It's really come down to the end game, right? These players look like they're good at developing in the early game. It's really seeing how they play in the end game, whether it is managing their time, which we saw in the last match, or managing their pawns and their ability for their king to protect them, as we saw in the previous match before that. We're going to see Alton Mize here is in the white, and Maniac is taking black side for this. Um, typically white's supposed to have an advantage because they go first, but I always like playing black side. White is a little bit more tricky, I feel. I mean, he will move forward with that queen's pawn. Um, Standard move. Typically, white is going to look to take the center with that queen or king's pawn right off the start. Most common moves in all of chess.
I think you make a great point, Jake, in that, yes, white is supposed to have that advantage as they do move first.
Ooh,
but we've been making the point all day about how this is such a game of playing your opponent as opposed to playing strategy. So, yeah, a lot of times black can be an advantage if you are a player who is very good and very intuitive when you're looking into what the other player is doing.
Yeah, we'll see. Maniac is setting up. He sets up with a knight right away. I wonder if he's going to be looking for the King's Indian defense. No, he does go for developing the other knight, not having a single pawn out there. I would say he moves his queen's pawn up at this point just to try to meet that, because if he moves forward, oh, geez, I don't like that move at all. Now he attacks the knight, gets a free pawn. The engine really likes white here. Is attacking that, loses. Oh my goodness, things are falling apart for Maniac right away. Loses a pawn and a knight on that trade for nothing.
Yeah.
Now all he has to do is do as many trades as he possibly can, and when it gets down to the end game, he should have a piece advantage. Wow, and you also notice it completely destroys his development. At this point, Maniac should just be going. Oh, he's going to try to do a fried liver attack. Fried liver attack's not going to work because Alden can just move back his queen here to defend it. Um, or, yep, we can move the rook to defend it. He'll offer this trade as well. Trade is going to be okay for him. Yeah, you don't really want to take that trade when you're down a piece. Um, at this point, I say you kind of attack the queen. He's developing his queen now, Maniac is, and you'll notice he has zero threats. Alden has zero threats to worry about. Alden's got 4 or 5 pieces developed, and Maniac has none. Just his queen. That's it, right? Doesn't have any pawns developed. Can't move his rooks. Can't move his bishops. Can't move his king. Everything's stuck.
Yep.
So yeah, this is going to be a really tough one.
Yeah, Alton has complete control of the middle of the board here, and in general, in the vast majority of cases in chess, if you are controlling the middle of the board, you're going to come out the victor. I mean, that is kind of just, unless you are getting up into some of those high ranking games, control of the middle of the board is so important and can be so pivotal.
Yeah, yeah, I can. He attacks the rook. Moves the rook out of that position. Ooh, queen is moving to stack above his king. I'm wondering exactly why he goes for that. Probably anticipating. Yeah, he was anticipating that bishop to attack his queen down down that white diagonal. And if he moves his queen out of the way to not be attacked, then he loses his pawn, and then subsequently he will be losing his rook. So he does get that out of the way. Actually, quite smart to do so. He can attack this queen with his bishop that will be covered by his knight if he wanted to do that. He can also attack it with his c knight on c3 by moving it to d5. Um, the queen will be able to get out of that position, but then he opens up some other attacks for himself, and develops his knight further to the center while also making the queen not be able to move. I don't know if I like this move by the queen on the side of Maniac. I assume we'll see a pawn to a3. Um, Pawn to a3 will then attack that queen. Doesn't want to sacrifice the queen for a knight, so he's not going to do that. We'll go for a castle actually to protect his king a little bit more. Um, yeah, we're not going to see a trade of a queen for a knight or for a bishop. Um, really, what I would like to see now from Maniac is try to move this dark squared bishop out, get it developed so that you can then castle your king on king side. It's just a really tough position. That early game really hurt Maniac there.
Do you
And
think he could castle queenside? Would that make
can't anymore. The castle's
he
been
can't
moved.
because the castle's been moved?
Yep.
If the castle moves back, so I guess answer me this: if the castle moves back to that a8 position, then on
Nope.
the next turn, no, it's only at the very beginning when neither piece has moved.
King or castle cannot move.
Okay.
If castle moves, then you can't castle. If the king moves, you can't castle either way.
Okay.
So, yep, that is only for the first move of the king, and first move of the rook. Does attack that queen. Queen will have to move out. Not a lot of safe options for the queen. We'll move it a little bit forward. Interesting position. Not a huge fan because um, you can now that queen can't go left, right. It can't go right, and there's only a few positions where it's safe, and that's moving it backwards. It now is it taken? Um, it's got one move, and that is moving it back to that e6 square. Can't move it to any other square, or else it dies. So
What
Maniac, we'll
about
see if he finds
c3?
this. Huh?
If he had
D3?
if he had taken the knight at c3, would the queen not have been safe there? What am I missing there? Huh.
Wait, I missed what happened.
He moved the queen back, and then the queen got taken. Maniac moved his queen back, and then the queen got taken.
Who took the queen? I missed it because I was looking at the other part of the board. I might have to check on stream what just happened there.
Yeah.
Knight took queen, huh?
Yeah, he retreated his queen, but didn't know that the knight was or maybe didn't realize that the knight was in a position to take the queen. Thought he was being
And
safe.
that pawn that you were talking about, Thunder. If he took that knight, the pawn was guarding the knight, so he could have killed with the pawn.
Okay.
On c3. You see where the pawn is on b5? That was actually on b2 at the time. And he
Oh,
does
okay,
just
okay.
take with the pawn. This is, yeah, Maniac's basically out of this game. He's down a queen. He's got 2 rooks and a bishop versus 2 rooks, a queen, and a knight. Things are not looking good. Well, really, what you're going to look to do now as Alton is you're going to try to develop out your rooks, push them, to, that C file is looking really juicy right now. And yeah, he tries to bust up the pawn structure guarding the king. Not able to do so, but that is actually a dangerous position because that king now cannot move up to that G2 position. Will end up dying or being put in check if he does by that pawn. It's offering the trade bishop for knight. You either have to move your king here or take that trade. Doesn't want to take the trade, and now he gets hit with a fried liver attack. There's a fork right there. King is in check. Moves the king. Going to take the rook. Game should be over. Maniac at this point probably should concede, but we are in a tournament, so we'll let them play this out. Alton Mize really, really looking strong here today. Maybe a top contender. We'll see.
Yeah,
I'm going to guess he
wow.
moves the knight there. Yep, he does move the knight to that unprotected square, attacking the bishop. Bishop will now have to move. Only has one safe place to move, and that is back next to the king. And then all of a sudden, you open yourself up to, yep. Now he's got a pass pawn here that can't be defended. And all he has to do is move that knight over, and you'll see Alton Mize now with 2 queens. Moves that pawn forward. That's going to do nothing for him. I would say move the queen. Yeah, you can move the queen there. You can also move your knight so that that does nothing. Moving that rook to that position on the G file. You can't take the pawn because it's protected by 2 other pawns. You will move that out, and now please move this knight. There you go. Move the knight, attack the bishop. Bishop will retreat once again, can't go anywhere else, or he loses that bishop. Go back to where you were, bishop, and then he's just going to move this a6 pawn up to a8. And just like that, game should be good to go. Yep. And now he'll have checkmate next move, or technically he'll be able to defend one more move with well, there you go. That's a strong move too. Can't take the queen because it's protected by the knight. At this point, just take the rook. I mean, honestly, there's no harm in taking this rook. Lose your queen, get another one right now. Boom, there you go. And
There it
just
is.
like that, game should be GG. Um, you know,
Wow, strong play out of Alton. Wow. This is, far and away the most commanding win that we have seen yet today.
Yep, really strong win. Lots of blunders here. Really, Alton, what he needs to do is he just needs to. Oh, got checkmate here, or no, he does. Yeah, he had. Oh, he had almost checkmate. Check, and then check. Moves it down. There you go.
And there you have
Great
it.
play by Alton Mize. Another win for him today, just barreling through and going straight to the finals.
Yeah.
And it looks
Wow.
like it will be him
Congratulations,
versus the
Alton.
top dog who beat Henshin, our last player we just saw win. And it'll be Alton Mize versus the top dog in the finals. And we will be, just reminder for everybody, for the finals today, we will be doing a best of 3. Best of 3. And Saber, I'm sorry I approved your message late. I'm casting and modding and running the tournament all at once. Usually I have somebody to mod and to cast while I run the tournament. So it's a little bit crazy today.
We're doing what we can for you guys, for sure. And you know what? this is exciting stuff because we are casting this for the first time, and we're having the players on stream for the first time. So this is exciting as we get moving into our next season. So great game. We're going to take a break here before we get into our finals, folks. So don't go anywhere except maybe just a quick break. Grab a snack, whatever you need to do. We will be back. I will be back with Master Shake for the finals. See you soon.
See you soon.
Welcome back, everybody. My name is Thunder McFadden, and I am joined by Master Shake for this chess tournament, and we are in the finals. We're in the
Here we
finals.
go.
This is the finals. Right now, we have the top dog going up against Alton Mize. The top dog we have not seen yet on stream. Alton Mize, we have seen, and we have seen some impressive stuff on stream. Okay, so I need to make that clarification. Very excited to see. Jake, coming into this finals, we have a best of 3 as opposed to these kind of the one and done games that we have been playing. Okay, so best of 3 going to factor in, just like being live on stream is going to factor in. The top dog hasn't been live on the stream yet. Okay, so how is that going to factor in mentally, that type of thing? What are you looking forward to in this matchup, Jake?
I just want to see the two best players play. I mean, we've seen Alton just have a really
Fair.
dominating performance. When you have some really good two chess players play, I hate to go all Queen's Gambit on you, but I think it's beautiful and it's really, really interesting and fun. One of the most, the oldest and most timeless games of humanity. So, seeing and it's really just a game of wits. I love seeing it play out. And it's hard to tell play styles by only seeing just a few games. By the end of next season, we'll have a really good idea on how people like to play. Do they like to play conservative? Do they like to really go out and get those early trades and try to go for an end game kind of style game? Um, that's really um, the question. Somebody saying that on Lee Chess, somebody is 3,500. Chess.com, they're 402. That's a little bit of a different spread. As 3,500, you would be one of the top ranked in the world. Um, and at 400, you would be one of the lowest ranked in the world. So,
That's
um,
funny.
yeah, but going into this game, you know, we'll see what they do. All players so far, I think aside from Maniac, has been showing that they know like textbook or theory based openings. And then from there, it's really just once you get into the mid game, it's all your own setups and how you play and how you trade. So I love seeing it once it gets to the mid game. Um, the lot of theory goes out the window once you hit the mid game, and then once you hit the late game, it's not as much theory, but it's like there's very specific strategies. How do you move your king to protect your pawns? How do you use particularly whatever pieces you have left? There's a lot of like noted strategy. Like if you have two rooks, what does that look like? You're typically cutting off a file and then checking on the next file and trying to corner them until they can no longer move. If you have a bishop or a knight, you're looking at maneuvers with your king as a supporting factor to try to take usually a pass pawn or try to get your pawn towards the edge of the board. Really, the mid game is what I'm looking forward to in these to see how they use these mid games.
Yeah, we're going to get into the game right here. Very excited to see how it develops, and we've seen a number of different kind of strategies, different ways of development. You made a comment about everybody having kind of this little more textbook approach. Everybody except for Maniac, that is. I will give a shout out to Maniac because again, Maniac is one of those players that plays multiple esports, and
Yep.
for me, that is something that I always shout out. I always do because you know me and you know my gaming, Jake. I play a bunch of different games and I'm like mediocre in all of them. So like to watch these students excel is always fascinating, is always amazing to me. So I'm always shouting out those players that are diving in and even being willing to go on stream in
Yeah.
different esports. And any of you players that are even willing to be on stream for us, thank you. We're excited to stream your games and just
Looking at
excited to have this opportunity. It's awesome.
this pyramid attack here, you'll see, gets his dark bishop out first, real smart. And look at this. This is a very interesting. I don't know the name of this, but it's a strong opening with all these defense positions. Wow, I've not seen this opening done before. And I gotta say, I really like it. It's protecting every square in the middle is 100% protected. They did not like that for the side of white. He doesn't go for the take, allowing for another trade here, and that may give Alton Mize the pawn advantage. Or no, there was no pawn taken in the beginning. Huh. I was a little bit confused there, I think. He does go to attack this particular pawn. And I gotta assume he's gonna move his knight out of this. There's not much he can do with his knight here. He can't take that pawn because he'll just be taken by Top Dog's rook. I would assume he moves his knight. Oh, he moves it back in.
Mhm.
Doesn't want to move it forward. Engine liking the Top Dog's chances here. Yeah. Uh, Now he'll take, looks for a repeat take. May just move it up. No, he will take there. That's the smarter move. But does have an open file for his rook now. That will go for the sacrifice there and stack up these pawns. He's going to have to stack these two pawns. And all of a sudden, Top Dog has got a really wonky pawn structure where Alden Mize' pawn structure is strong. Very, very strong. And he's going to look to cover this attack. That shouldn't do anything. That does not change the move of the rook to h4. Shouldn't change anything. He can still just attack this pawn with his knight, have it covered by his queen. Instead, opts for a castle on the queen side. First queenside castle we've seen today. Oh, that's why the bishop. I was not seeing the bishop covering there. That's why I don't like this move in particular. He goes out. He
I
will
didn't
take
see the
now this
bishop
pawn.
covering either, honestly.
I think he's going to take the pawn, attack both of these pieces here. Yep, does do so. It's not great because he can take it with with the bishop. Bishop attacks the queen. Queen has to move, and now he's going to win. Why would you do it with that piece? Now you can trade queens. I don't like that. Before you could attack with your bishop. Bishop then threatens queen. You can't take the bishop with queen because black queen covers. So then you move your queen out of the way to not be killed by that bishop, and then all of a sudden, boom, you lose your rook on the h1 square. Alden Mize having a um, avoiding a devastating attack there. I think Top Dog really wanted to attack with that bishop instead. Um, but perhaps he sees something. Maybe he's looking at this corner pawn where he can attack. Will do a trade of the queens.
Mhm.
But at this point, I don't think that rook is safe, anyways. Um, and he loses. He's going to lose the rook. Does not see that play by the Top Dog. Top Dog does not see it either. Oh my goodness. Oh, was in check. Had to do that. Never mind. He was in check. He had to do that.
Yeah.
Had to move it, but that doesn't do anything. I mean, I guess he's got to move his rook up. And then he sacks. Move his bishop up. Sacks. That also works because it's protected by the knight. Um, will look like he gets out of this one. Will go for the trade. Trades there.
I just
And
saw
we're
in the
good.
chat, guys, the name of the player matches the side that they are playing. The color of their name, you'll see it on there. Just for you in the
Yep,
chat and for all the viewers, Alton is white, Top Dog is playing black, and that's the way that we're going to organize the streams when we do have the chess matches going on.
exactly.
Yep.
Doesn't like that play for white. The generator doesn't. Um, does take that free pawn on the far side. Will now have a pass pawn on the a file. Um,
Alton really had, we saw a defense that was like well put together, and even up to the point where Alton made that castle move, which seemed somewhat unnecessary. I thought that it was a decent play because he's getting his king into a little bit of a better spot, and with how fortified his defense was, it seemed like the play. But now it just seems like Top Dog has an answer for everything.
ooh, and the generator hated that move. Um, on the side of white for Alton Mize. Um, they are equal in as far as their bigger pieces go. We got two rooks, a knight, and a light squared bishop. Um, but Top Dog does have a pass pawn as well as one extra pawn. Although one of his extra pawns is stacked up, so that does kind of hurt him. You see them stacked on the F file there. Two pawns, right, one on
Mhm.
top of the other. Um, in a tricky position, doesn't have the best development of his pieces either, right? You see that although they have the same amount of pieces, the rook is stuck on that h1 position, and the knight really can't get out very well, um, because you take the pawn, you sack this terrible sacrifice there, so you're not doing that. You can't go to your f3 because your own pawn is blocking it. So your really only move is to go to G2. I think I want to see him go to G2 here so he can finally move this rook out of the corner and get it involved. Because right now it's doing nothing where um, Top Dog's got both rooks in the game with open files ready to push forward. So did not like that move by White on the side of
Yeah.
he's going for a check. Does move the king out of that check position so they don't get into that back and forth, back and forth. See on time, Alton is losing by about 2 minutes. Typically, will happen when you're starting to lose the match. You you think more and more about your turns. Neither
I
player with a specifically open thing. Sorry, Thunder. Go
No,
ahead.
you're good. You're good. I don't think though that I feel like time management has been a very strong suit for Alton throughout the day, though. I mean, even though he is at a disadvantage now, and the top dog has kind of broken him down some, I think that Alton he does make he does make strategic moves even when he has to think about them. He does make them relatively quickly, right? So 4.5 minutes, I feel like, is kind of an eternity for a player like Alton.
He's offering the trade, so he just offers to trade knight and bishop for a rook. Knight and bishop for a rook. He will take that. Now it is a two rook. God, I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know. Knight and bishop for rook. That that that's not terrible. I mean, obviously by point structure, that's 3 and 3, so 6 for a 5. Um, I believe also took the pawn there, so I think that's an equal 6 for 6 trade, and now you have two rooks looking to end this game. Nope, can't end. Um, but can do some tricky things close to that. Um, he can move
Yeah.
his rook all the way down again, and it is protected by his second rook.
Hmm.
There's some options here. Not anything that's going to get you in a checkmate right away, but I'd like
But
to
he can start
see.
chasing with those castles
Yep.
here a little bit. Put some of the
Now there's
pressure
an
on.
open pawn. Um, two open pawns now that Top Dog can take. Um, so Top Dog, Alden maneuvers to protect one of them. Will lose the other, and now is being threatened to lose his B two pawn as well. And has cut off his rook with that move. Um, yeah, it's starting to look more and more devastating for Alton, just because although that trade wasn't terrible, now it's opening him up to getting all of his pawns basically decimated, and all he can't do much to protect the rest of this structure. So now what you do is, I believe, yep, he's starting to maneuver his knight out. He's going to try to take a position where he can fork. He's attacking the rook right now, trying to get that rook out of his back line. Um, offers a trade. Obviously, Alden does not want this trade. We'll get that rook out of there, and now he can put this king into check and develop his knight a little bit more. There you go. Develops it, puts it into check, forks it with the rook. He's going to lose the rook here, and this should be game for Top Dog right here. So go ahead and take that rook. You take this trade every day. Rook for a knight, or knight for rook. He doesn't do it. He decides to go for check. Still not a terrible move. King has to get separated, and now he won't even sacrifice. Actually, by doing that check, forces king can only go in one position, and he will resign.
And there it is.
Only move he could do is king to e5. Yep, And after that, he loses his rook for free, and bam.
Yeah.
So great play by Top Dog. Wow,
Yeah,
really
for real.
impressive.
I mean, because Alton came out so strong, so strong, put himself in a very favorable position, like from the get, right? And Top Dog just chipped and chipped and chipped and chipped away at it. You know, the further they went along.
Yeah.
And it was really, I mean, you could almost see through the computer screen Top Dog thinking and just being like, okay, all right, you know, which sounds so strange, but it's true. Like, I mean, he was putting together each move in such a calculated way. Just it really seemed to have an answer for anything that Elton had to throw at him.
Yeah.
Do you think that there is a do you think that there is a more or less aggressive approach that Alton could have to try to throw off Top Dog, or what do you think? What do you think here? Also, are we going to switch sides? That's another good question.
Well, they're gonna go random again,
Okay.
so they probably, there's a chance that they'll switch sides. The um the thing I'll be really looking at is, and something that Alton didn't do as well, is looking out for forks. Fork is when you attack two different pieces with one, and so that you typically have to either move out of that position with one of your pieces and then you lose the other. And that's how the Top Dog was able to take those advantages. Is he had actually two or three really good fork plays, where and a good example of that was right at the end where you saw him move his knight, put the king into check, but also attacking the rook at the same time. Being the lesser player that I am, I thought you go directly for that rook and make the sacrifice. But Top Dog's smart enough to know that if he moves his pawn up, not only can he get that rook, but also trade it for nothing, right? No
Right.
trade at all. By moving the king into a position where it has to move away from defending that rook. And at that point, you have one rook versus a bishop, knight, rook, and like double the amount of pawns, and you're just in a losing position. There's no coming back from that, and you
Yeah.
rightfully resigns.
Yep, and you made the point even before we got into it about how important the middle game is,
Yeah.
and we saw Top Dog just take over the middle game, right? And when you're in a position or when you're in a place of exchanging, right? We've talked about the equal trades, knight for knight, rook for rook, bishop for bishop, right? You know, those even trades that players will make to either defend or put themselves in an advantageous position or that type of thing. Another thing to factor in, though, is those takes that you will get as we're getting into this next game here. Those takes, right, that you get for free or for a minimal cost. Okay. If you get one or two of those and all of a sudden you're up a knight and a bishop, you're up a knight and a rook, then you can move forward on the aggressive side and you can be like, you can offer up those trades and say, hey, here you go. Go ahead. Well, let's make a trade. Why not? Queen for queen, bishop for bishop. It doesn't matter. Let's go ahead. Right. Because I've already got the advantage and I'm already a step or two ahead.
King Top Dog doing a E3 pawn move here. Um, Probably looking to develop that D pawn, the queen's pawn to D4, potentially, potentially just looking to move out his bishop right away. Also, might look for kind of a variation of what a king's Indian defense for black side might be by moving. That's a common pawn move for a king's Indian defense where you'll move your knight to F3, move G2 pawn to G3, and then move bishop to F2. I mean G2, and then G2. Hilarious. What? Game aborted. Something must have happened. Um,
Hmm.
what was that? All right.
Sure. We're
Well, we're
going to come
figuring
back
this
out here,
out.
guys.
Something was an issue. We'll probably start up back out. We were one move in, so not a problem whatsoever. I'm sure they'll just start right back up and do the same first move.
Yep. Yep. So we'll just hang tight here, guys. We're gonna get as soon as production is ready and as soon as the players are ready. Anything can happen with these. Maybe it's just a mistake on one of the players' sides. Somebody accidentally exited the game, so it could be as simple as a misclick. Who knows? But
Mhm.
we're figuring it out on the fly. Production does a great job with that. So James, thank you so much, man. You're the man. He is always handling this stuff and making it happen in the moment, right? So
Yeah.
big ups to him. So thank you, dude. As we get going back here, you know, do you think, Jake, tell me this. As we saw, okay, so Top Dog is playing white now, makes that more subtle move with the pawn to start off. Now, again, we're going to restart the game. Is that potentially a nice slow play because of what Top Dog has shown us in his defensive play? Do you think that's a slow play on his side to kind of just say, you know what, even though I'm going first, I'm going to sort of put the ball in your court? Do you think that's what he's doing there, or what do you think that
I
that?
think he's looking just for a different type of opening and to look to develop his pieces. It's a
Okay.
good, still a good move. You're able to then move out your queen on that side because it opens up the light square file for the queen. Also, light square
Mhm,
bishop gets opened up, and then you can maneuver out another. Your queenside pawn further up. It does block your dark squared bishop, so that's
mhm,
probably what he's sacrificing in this case, but you kind of counteract that by developing just dark square pawns. So if you have a lot of strong dark square pawns, then you get back into it. All right, so we're back into the game. Same move. Um,
cool. Just
we
had a
do
quick
see,
pause there.
yep, we see Alton push out his king's pawn to try to take that center. That's typically a good defense to what you're seeing here. I do not like that pawn move. I do not like that c3 pawn move because it blocks your knight. Your knight now no longer can move up that to that position. I'm going to guess that he's going to move the d pawn up. He does take. Please take with your c pawn. Please, please, please take with your c pawn. Does not do so, and this pawn can just continue to decimate the center, destroy that kingside pawn,
Ooh.
and there it is. And now the center for Top Dog is already destroyed. And you have to take here, of course, um, but already a advantage to Alton Mize. A takes two pawns to losing one,
Mhm.
and also just completely destroys and disjoints the two center pieces. And you'll see that the king in this case is pretty vulnerable. He's not going to be vulnerable. He's not going to get checkmated or anything like that. Um, I will say that Top Dog does have a better development so far of his pieces, but development isn't going to matter a whole lot because, like you'll see right now, he's going to start developing out. He's going to attack this pawn and look to also attack the other two pieces. Um, the problem is that he did block his queen defending that pawn with the dark squared bishop, but he can move that dark squared bishop, or there you go, defend it with the knight and develop that knight at the same time. I like that play. I would anticipate a castle here from the side of Alton Mize, especially with that. The pawn moves up on the h3. That's a very common move to prevent the bishop to g4 move, which is very common. Yep, there we go. There's the castle I was anticipating. And he's probably going to move that rook to attack the e file, which is a very, very strong move.
I was
Castle
gonna
very
say, there
important.
we go. I was gonna ask. I was gonna say, do you think that Top Dog goes for a castle here? And I was gonna ask which side because does he do? I mean, obviously he made this move on the castle, but do you think that getting the kingside bishop out of the way and then castling on the other side makes a difference or no? Where would you
Um,
castle if you're Top Dog in this moment? Where would you have castled, right or left?
castle to your stronger side. The option to castle to the that position. Ah, man, so watch this. What's going to happen right now?
Mhm.
He's going to move his pawn up, attack the bishop with a pawn, and also attack the queen with bishop. Um, but moving this knight does allow for that bishop to get taken. So it might do a bishop for bishop trade. Yeah, he's going to pull that back. does disrupt his plan there. What he was looking to do is move that pawn, and when you move that pawn might just be attacking one new thing, but the bishop then is attacking the queen at the same time. So very strategic maneuver. He's going to just go right back. I would assume that top dog just moves his knight right back where it was again. Nope, we'll move the queen instead. They are very privy to that attack that I am describing. Um, so at this point, if you're Alton, you're probably looking to develop or push out some more pawns. It is possible you go for something like a g6 into a you don't really want to disrupt your pawn structure on your king side, weakening your king. There is a really strong move with that queen going over to h7. Right now, it's not strong because it's defended, but it could become strong later.
I was gonna say, is that a move that can become really devastating for Alton here if Top Dog starts developing that king side of the board?
We'll go for the trade here. Yeah, if he develops,
Can he
pushes up the pawns,
yeah,
but he
to
can't really
go
push
after
up
the
the
king
pawn right now, just because the bishop is threatening so hard. Does push up this pawn to attack the bishop, but we'll just move it back. It shouldn't be an issue there. And now it's an interesting predicament. No particularly amazing moves for either side. We'll push the queen into a different position. Nothing really in danger here. You're not going to sacrifice your queen for a pawn. May look for a. I almost say you move your pawn up. Oh, I thought I heard something. Pawn does get moved up here. Top dog looking to take this home. And he will attack that bishop. That is a good bishop attack. Moves it back. Now he has the potential to attack this pawn if he can get this knight to get out of the way. So he's gonna push up the pawn to make that knight move. But the engine doesn't like that. Engine thinks that this heavily favors black now. He can take this pawn on the queen side now for free. Should be able to take that. But then he's going to get hit with a massive fork. Yep, he doesn't want that. So we'll protect his pawn for now. Still threatening the d5 pawn.
Top Dog for a second there looked like he was just flexing with those two pawns, the F and G pawns.
Well, really, he's trying to attack a square, and he's trying to get. Oh, and all of a sudden, white becomes a little bit more favored.
Yeah.
I mean, he can take. I see what he's trying to do here. He offers the sacrifice. It's not really a sacrifice though, because if he takes it, he has to take the bishop back because of the check. And then he can move his rook out of the way of this attacking bishop. But now white just pushes forward, should push forward and take this pawn. Likely. The white position has vastly increased here because he is. Oh, yeah, this is looking like an interesting maneuver. I don't know why you don't just take that free pawn while you can. He's got the stacked queen and rook, which is just a deadly combination. Looking to attack the queen. I'm still not a fan of not taking this center pawn, which then allows you to do a lot more. Now the pawn is no longer an option. Because
Do
the
you think
queen
Alton
defends it.
did
Oh, you
that
can.
to...
Queen can totally. He moves up.
I wonder if he didn't do that just to keep those pawns there for the time being.
And he does lose
just
a
to buy
pawn.
himself some time. I don't know.
He does lose a pawn here. Should attack with the rook. I mean the bishop. Attack with that bishop. Yep, does attack with the bishop. Also attacking the queen. Queen has to move out of the way. trying to think what he's going for here. Goes for the check.
Okay.
This does not help him. He's not going to sacrifice queen for a
Mm,
rook, so he's just going to move that king up. And
and
now his queen's in trouble.
So yeah.
So he has to move. He's got 3 safe spaces for this queen to move to. The 4 through 6 on the 8 file. He's probably going to move to 4 so he can remain the king in check while also escaping his queen, not allowing for his opponent to develop for a move. We'll have
I
to
was
move that
wondering.
king back.
I was wondering a little bit on the last move why he didn't go back to 6. Why go to 1 when you could have gone back to 6 on that last move?
Well,
Get out
he's
of the
looking for a
way.
check to try to move
Right.
that king up, and now he's probably trying to figure out how can I get in a position to checkmate. So he's going to
He
check
does go back
here.
to 4. Okay.
Yep, and he's got a interesting position where he is covered. Now he's not covered there, and he can go back for another check here, although it's not going to do a whole lot for him unless he wants to trade queens. Oh my God, he just blundered his queen. Oh, Alton Mize. Oh no, he didn't, because he's in check. He's in check, so he doesn't blunder the queen. I
Okay.
freaked out a little bit unnecessarily there. I freaked out. I gotta make sure I'm getting my channel points here. Everybody get your channel points in. I wonder, are all our new... Nope, our new emotes are not up yet. All right, so now Alton is looking. He's got to do something with this queen. He's got an unprotected... No, I'm messing up this pieces here. And white is greatly favored now. There's got to be some sort of move that white's going to do that is going to... And that's not it. Although the generator still really likes white in this position.
Yeah.
Black moves forward his pawn to try to disrupt what's currently occurring. Oh, and here it goes. This is what will happen. Oh, nope. Can't. That's not exactly what will happen. But now he is threatening the bishop, but the bishop is protected. Yeah, this is a complicated position. Very complicated position. Alton down on time and continuing to burn his time more and more. The generator does not like that maneuver at all.
Yeah. I mean, the patience of top dog on the whole in the game, right? I mean,
He needs
he's
to
got
move.
over 2 more minutes.
Yeah, Alton needs to move this. He needs to move this rook on the b8 position because it's doing nothing. It's just trapped. It's protecting nothing. It's attacking nothing.
Yeah.
Whereas he's got, white position has got attacks everywhere. It does go to attack here, although it's in a... Oh my goodness, and he just blunders there. That hurts. Did not see the bishop being able to take. And now, oh, this is a Quint. He's got to look out for it. Yeah,
Oof.
this could be huge right here. Oh, it does block it. Although he can just take with the bishop. No! Take with your bishop, you goof.
Oh wow.
He's gonna
Well, but
go here,
now,
put him in check,
so
and then he can't take... Oh no, he's not. He's gonna do that. Yep, there you go.
there
Pushes the
you
rook
go.
forward,
Okay.
threatens the queen. Queen's not gonna take because you don't want to trade a queen for a rook in this position at all. And things are looking real strong.
Hey, what we thought was like kind of a question mark moment is now just completely working out for top dog. he's
Yep. And
he's
look at this next move, Thunder. This is important. Look at this next move. If you don't see it yet, for everybody in chat, do you see it? You move the rook on the E file all the way down, and you put the opposing king in check in 2 different places. You would
Yep.
think that he just takes your rook, but your rook, but he can't do that. Now he loses his queen. Goodbye, queen. All top dog doesn't see it. Doesn't see it. He could
No.
have taken his queen. He just blundered his queen. Now he loses his queen. Oh man, take the rook and put him in check at least. Oh my goodness. What?
He's making the king move.
He's making the king move, yeah. Oh man. Take the queen, take the rook. There you
Yep,
go.
you want to do
Finally takes
that.
the rook. He could have done that and put the king in check at the same time. Although he does, you know, um, look at a interesting situation for his own rook. But I think at that point, God, he blundered the queen though. Yeah,
You know,
you
he
did not see it. He went for the check. He could have just moved that rook over and taken the queen. What a huge blunder. And Alton Mize is just happier than all heck that that didn't go the wrong way there. Um, all right, he's gonna look for this. This should be a checkmate here. I believe this is a checkmate. Yep, there you go.
there it is.
And
Top
congratulations,
dog.
top dog. Yeah.
Wow. Nice work. Our champion on the day, top dog. And what is the prize, Jake?
$25 gift card to Steam. So I'll be getting in contact with Top Dog and making sure that
Yeah.
you get that. It's gonna have to add me as a friend, which is the one down part side, and then after 3 days, I can get him his
Oh,
gift card.
perfect. Fantastic. Look, top dog. Wow. And you know, Jake, we saw in both of those games the patience, okay, the strategy, and just holding kind of through that beginning and into the mid game. Top dog was so good at it, watching and figuring out his opponent and coming out the winner on the day. The top dog,
Yep,
literally the top dog today. You can't. I mean, you
absolutely.
can't write that. He did. And so that's fantastic. Congratulations. Wow. What a day. Jake, your final thoughts on the day. I mean, this was a blast.
I'm surprised by the amount of skill that we saw coming out of all these players today. Taking a look over at the trying to look at the losers match. Looks like Henshin is up 1-0. Beats Maniac in the third place match. So Henshin will take third place. Alden Mize was second and Top Dog in first. I felt like Top Dog was incredible. Sorry, just looking
Yeah,
over at the brackets over here on my
you're good.
right. But Top Dog was incredible. Really showed some strong gameplay. The only one move I didn't like of his was not taking that queen.
Mm,
But otherwise, fantastic day all around. Quick tournament for us. And this makes me super pumped for spring's registration. Letting
yeah.
everybody know, spring registration opens up on Monday,
Mhm.
February 15th, and it will be open through March 15th. I very much do not anticipate a lot of people registering right away, but if you want to make sure you get your spot solidified, your coaches know how to register and how to for you to sign up. But basically, once you're on a roster on the MNVL League Spot platform, then you just pay the league fee on mnvl.org/register, and you get added to the league, and you're good to play. Spring is looking interesting. We had 10 schools last season. We're going to have close to 30 schools this season. So almost triple, if not triple. So there's going to be a lot of good competition, and man,
Crazy.
this tournament made me excited for it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, coming up on this next season, Jake, we have triple the schools, triple the teams that
Yeah.
we had last season. We're adding games. I am learning more video games and esports than I ever thought that I would, and it's really fantastic for me. And we are so happy to have you all participating. Thank you for making Minnesota Varsity League what we have now, and for helping us grow what is the premier high school league in the country. I mean, straight up, that's what we have here. And we're happy to bring this to you every week in and week out, and we got more and more coming. So thank you all. The top dog, again, the champion on the day for this, our chess tournament. Thank you, Master Shake, for making an appearance on cam with me. My dude, my brother, so happy to cast with you. I know you hate it, but I love it. So dude, thanks for being here. Production, really kicking it today. Fantastic job. Thank you. On behalf of everybody here at Minnesota Varsity League, my name is Thunder McFadden, and we're going to see you guys next week for Minecraft. Thank you. Take care.
Next week is Overwatch. Not